Welcome back to this channel. It's your resident internet psychic medium and spiritual advisor, Mystic Rain, and today we are going to be answering more questions. I forgot what the question was about. What was it about? Well. I first would like to say that I had no idea that taking down a video was going to spark such controversy, nor did I realize, one, that you guys would even notice that I took it down, and two, that you guys would even have an opinion about it. But since you guys did, I guess we could talk about it briefly. The video last week was taken down, right? And some of you are going to get here and go, what is she talking about? Sorry, babe, you're just not going to know about it because it's already down. And when I tell you, you guys let me know that you had a problem with that decision. First, hey, okay? Please don't shoot the messenger, okay? I put the video up, and then you guys know I'm operating with Spirit. A lot of things that I'm doing recently is channeled, and Spirit was like, great, take it down. And I was like, what? And Spirit was like, the people that needed to see it saw it already. Take it down. And I was like, all right, cool. So I took it down. Didn't think anything of it. And then you guys started going to other videos, commenting on those, and was like, Mystic Rain, 6 exclamation points. What the hell are you doing? Put that video back up. One of you, and I was very flattered by this, was like, haha, bitch, found you and unlisted. And I gotta admit, I was high-key flattered. Why was it taking it down? Was it supposed to come down? I mean, I don't know. You know, Spirit says what Spirit does. I guess the message made it to where it was originally intended to go. I mean, I have absolutely no idea. And unless I'm told to put it back up, it's gonna remain down. However, it is sitting in unlisted. So if you are that curious about it, you can go find it. Okay? And don't shoot the messenger, because that's really all I am. Listen. Okay, so we had a question come in from West1554. I'm a healer, energy worker, and empath. Lately, I've had resistance with themes of being around people, which has definitely recently been central to some of the decisions I'm making regarding my life, career, etc. I know that I need to work on that because it is holding me away from opportunities to grow, expand, and share my gifts. Most days, I just want to be alone. Can you do a video emphasizing what you mentioned about spiritual protection practices? Gotta be honest, babe, I don't remember what the hell I said about spiritual protection practices. So I'm not totally in alignment with what train of thought I was previously on, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm also not entirely sure what you mean by spiritual protection practices, because typically when people are asking me, are you asking me about like protection from like energies? You know what? I'm going to go with that. I'm going to assume that that's what you meant. And if it's not what you meant, we'll address that later. I'm going to go with what I think you were referencing in terms of spiritual practices, but I'm also going to go with a lot of people, or what I know that a lot of people actually think about and are usually concerned about when it comes to spiritual practice. Protection practices. Typically, when people are talking about like spiritual protection, they are talking about from like energies or potentially entities. Some people are talking about protection from magic or dark forces. And I get that, right? You know, obviously, when you are sort of stepping into this world, or even if you've been into it for a while and you're still sort of learning, figuring out how to protect yourself is something that is heavy on a lot of people's minds, particularly when you're still learning about what is or is not out there, or what something is or is not, or what something does and does not mean. And particularly in like modern day age, in the world of social media, you have people that are out there on the internet using very heavy, negative, dark buzzwords that quite frankly scare the shit out of everybody. Luckily for you, I'm going to get you together. But before I do that, I must make myself painfully clear, okay? When you sort of dive into this world, right, you start to learn things about how to manipulate energy, how to control energy. If that wasn't something that you weren't on some subconscious level interested in doing, you wouldn't actually end up here, right? And protection is a lot of manipulating energy and controlling energy. Using energy to your advantage is a form of discipline and it's a form of power. And protection is a form of discipline in which you need to feel self empowered in order to do. To be in power, there are three things that I don't do. I don't do scared spirituality, I don't do victim spirituality, and I also don't do bitch spirituality, okay? I will also not tolerate you doing scared spirituality, victim spirituality, and bitch spirituality. If you are working with me, you must agree to be fully in your power because over here at Mystic Rain, we don't give our power away, okay? And if you are standing fully in your power, holding on to your power, and refusing to give up your power, then there's really nothing you need to worry about in regard to protection. Am I making myself clear? Do we have an agreement? Okay. Class is in session. So now, what do I mean when I say scared spirituality, victim, and bitch spirituality? What I mean by that is the version of spirituality where people hand their power away. They give their power away to something, some entity, some energy, somebody else, some other situation, another circumstance, right? To me, that is victim spirituality. You're playing scared spirituality, and you're also being a little bit of a bitch. And honestly, that's not the game I play. If you are working with spirituality, you are here to expand. And in order for you to expand, you must be fully within your power and you must hold on to that shit unapologetically. And a lot of protection, that is what you're doing. You're holding on to your power. What is there to protect you from if you're not giving it away anyway? You understand what I'm saying? I have an example for how people give their power away. And this is going to be triggering for some of you because a lot of us do this. This idea of, oh, I'm cursed, or, oh, my circumstances are caused because there's a family curse and it moved into me due to moving through said generations, right? With that, you are giving your power over. Now, that does not mean that there weren't unfortunate circumstances. That does not mean that there was an attempt to bring you down, right? What that does mean is that you were okay with the attempt. What that does mean is that you accepted the attempt. And that's the shit I have a problem with. I have also seen situations where people are like, oh, you're dealing with an energy vampire. They're taking your energy. They're sucking your energy. Excuse me. I'm gonna need you to turn around and go get your shit back, okay? Because over here, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's my power and you can't have it because we will not negotiate with terrorists. And if we're feeling really petty, we're going to return that shit to sender on fire. Because one thing about me is I'm spiritual, honey, not saved. The way I view protection, I have only operated with one ideology. And it actually has worked for me up until this point, which is fuck around and find out. Because you may be spirit, but so am I. You are spirit, okay? Yeah, we're having this human experience, but first and foremost, you are spirit and you will always be spirit. That means you are as powerful as spirit. And I would actually argue that over here on this plane in the 3D, that you're actually more powerful because it's your turf. It's your home base. I also want to remind you that because of that, people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, they are spirits too. And what I have found in my practice is that you will spend the majority of your time protecting yourself from those spirits. Now that I'm moderately done with my high horse, so what kind of things are you needing protection from? When people say spiritual protection, what are they talking about? Essentially, what you're doing protection from is any form of energy that you don't really resonate with, right? It could be a thought form. It could be a situation. It could be a feeling. It could be an outcome that you don't actually really want to experience. Or it could be a person, right? Like that jackass over in accounting, okay? And of course, it can also be what a lot of people initially think it is, protection from spirit itself. Now, when it comes to like what kind of spirit, with that, I would say whichever one you really want protection from. Really? You know, when people think of protection from spirit, they have a tendency to go like the dark route of thought, where they're like, oh my God, there's like a negative entity, right? But like, honestly, it could be any spirit. For example, let's say you have an ancestor, a recent loved one that passed away. Let's say you guys had a lot of trouble when they were alive, a lot of hardship, a lot of disagreement. You had a complicated relationship, right? And let's say they die and they move on, and you are not yet ready to deal with that. You are still in the place of healing, you're still in a place of processing, and you're not really ready to come to terms with that relationship. And let's say they want to come back and they want to talk to you, see you in your dreams, say hello, see what you're doing, because at the end of the day, they are still a loved one. You may not feel ready for that, right? And so you may need them to back off of you for a little bit in order for you to process. So that could be a form of protection too, right? It's literally any energy that you don't really resonate with, right? You don't really care for it. You don't really want to be bothered with it. You don't really want to experience it. You don't really want it in your field. It's any energy that you don't resonate with. And a lot of people go, oh, that's a bad spirit, I guess, or like a bad entity, not really realizing that, you know, there's duality to everything, but really what you're experiencing is that you're just not resonating with it, or you're just not resonating with something, and that's fine. That's really what you are protecting yourself from. Now, I do want to like quickly address the concept of like what people consider to be like a negative entity. I know that this is a concern for people, and honestly, it was a really big concern of mine when I entered this space. There are dualities to everything. Everything is a polarity, right? It's the human brain that says this is bad or this is good, right? But in spirituality, it is this is this and this is that. Like energy attracts like energies. Certain energies of certain frequencies like other energies of other frequencies. And so, what people would traditionally think of when they think of a negative entity, that vibration and frequency is so low that anyone that's here watching this video, you wouldn't even be that low. It'd be so hard to touch you as that frequency because you don't vibe that low. You're so much more higher than that. And the reason for that is because all of you are light bearers. Now, regardless of what you guys are doing with it or whether or not you want to do anything with it at all, that's what you naturally are. If you were not naturally that way, you would not be here. The frequency is so high that anything that's lower than your frequency is not interested in you, if that makes sense. It's not interested in you. It's not looking for you, because why would it? It would require so much work and effort to get the frequency up to where it is that you are versus just hanging out where the frequencies actually exist. Think about when you are trying to do spiritual work. Let's say you read tarot cards or whatever, and you're trying to tap in. And then you go through your meditative state because you're trying to up your vibration, you're trying to up your frequency to make it easier for you to receive messages. Think about the amount of work that requires, right? And that is you doing a tiny jump because you're already at a higher frequency, which is why you can tap into the light messages anyway, right? That's a tiny jump and it requires an enormous amount of work. So why would a frequency that's so low have any interest at all and trying to climb the ladders, not one, the multiple, to get to where you are? I'm gonna tell you, they're not interested. I personally do not tolerate or acknowledge energy that is lower than mine. Spirituality is about finding self, finding power that is yours. I don't acknowledge and I don't tolerate. I'm not even willing to have a conversation, okay? And I would recommend that you adopt a pretty similar view. Do what you want. Everything about the spiritual and spirituality, including protection, is about your intention. What is your intention? It is about your will, right? Protection is about your will. If you want it, it is a yes. If you do not, then it is a no. And it actually really is that simple. Even when we are talking about things like protection, when you're talking about things like magic, doing rituals, if you want it, it's a yes. If you don't, it's a no. It's about will, right? Everything about spirituality is about power, about being self-empowered. Because let me ask you something. Why do you think they call it willpower? Because it's power that you will. And one thing that we will not tolerate is the loss of our sovereignty. We don't do that over here. And if you're working with me, I won't let you do that over here. When you are working on things like spiritual protection, you must activate your power and you simply will it. You will that you are protected. That is it. It's truly that simple. Now, the rest of the flair of it that you see in spirituality is the ritual of how people have decided to will it. So, for example, some people may know that, like, some people light a black candle, right? Some people light incense, a sage. That is how that person has chosen to demonstrate that will. That is how someone has chosen to create a physical manifestation of the will itself. But the ritual is being done due to the initial will, the initial intention that it shall be done. That brings me to our next step, right? You must decide on what your non-negotiables are. One of our non-negotiables we just discussed is loss of sovereignty. We will not lose it. That's the non-negotiable. What are the rest of your non-negotiables? You're going to have that conversation with yourself because it's going to be different for everybody, right? This means, what energies are you not willing to tolerate? What energies do you not want in your field? What energies do you not want to experience? What is that list of non-negotiables? Is it Sandra, right? In accounting, is that your non-negotiable? Is she a pain in the ass? Like, what is it, right? Write it down. It is from this list that you will then form your intention when doing your protection work. Because you first need to know what you desire to be protected from prior to doing any form of protection. Or you can be out there slinging spells left and right and you don't even know what you're guarding yourself against. Now, how do we do the protection, right? Now, a lot of things that people do are usually considered like some form of magical, right? Like lighting a candle or something like that. But I had to have a think about the type of people that I know that I'm working with. And what I realized was not all of you really are in that position to really do that. Either one, not all of you may know sort of like the fundamentals of magic, like something like a candle magic, which is something else that would require me to teach. And honestly, we ain't got time for that today. But the other thing that I realized is that there are so many of you that are still in the broom closet, which means that you are in environments where, like, openly practicing, right, is not really where you are right now. You're in a household where people don't really get it, they don't really understand. Maybe you're just like not out yet, but this is something that you're doing. And so I figured I'm going to approach this from a different way. I'm going to give you like practical ways that you can actually start doing protection work without having to look like you are, about to get burned at the stake or something like that. Okay. And then if I'm going to be really honest, these are things that I do because I don't always have time to do all of the rituals, or to be quite honest, don't always really care.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So first things first, for those of you that work with spirit, I would say start with creating a spirit contract. I'm saying specifically for those of you that work with spirit because not everyone does, right? Some people are very much working with themselves. They're working with their own higher guidance. They're working with their own intuition. They have no interest in working with any ancestor, spirit guide, angel, or whatever. They're working with themselves. And so if you are one of those people that are working with yourself, you don't really need to worry about this. But if you are the other group of people who you feel like you're working with spirit or you would like to work with spirit, right? You need a spirit contract. In this contract, you are going to dictate your terms and your conditions, right? So your terms are, what do you want to be protected from? Your terms are what work you're willing to do with spirit, right? So for example, you may say, I like to read tarot cards. I would like to work with spirit on reading tarot cards, right? So that may be part of your term. Hey, Spirit, you and we're going to work together with these tarot cards. Every time I pull out a deck of cards and I'm looking for a message, you know that you're up, right? It's time for you. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for your messages, right? And figure out how you're going to work with them. Some of you may be mediums. Hey, Spirit, when I'm tapping in to the ones that have crossed over, this is when I need you to show up, right? Figure out when you want to work with them and be very clear about that, right? And then once you know all the different ways you're willing to work with them, then you are going to lay out your condition. In order for me to do this spiritual work with you, I need you to protect me at all times in perpetuity, right? So, what does perpetuity means? It means forever. It means eternally. It is something that doesn't end, right? So the terms and the conditions are, I will work with you reading tarot cards. I will work with you as a medium. I will work with you doing Reiki. I will work with you to assist other people in their healing. I will work with you to help other people on their journey. I'm willing to do all these things with you in order to accomplish this goal under the condition that you protect me at all times in perpetuity, right? This does two things. One, it clarifies your working relationship with spirit, right? So they know not to come popping up in your kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're out to go get a glass of water. They know you're not working right now, right? And it also is a fail safe. A lot of times what happens is that people will go into their protection. Maybe they I don't know, some people before they pull out cards or tarot cards, they may do a quick prayer, right? And sometimes what happens is that you're moving and then you forget to pray. And then people will go, oh shit, I didn't do my protection. And then there's like this moment of panic. If it's your terms and conditions that you're protected at all times in perpetuity, it's your failsafe. Even if you forget to do your other protection ritual, whatever that is, you're still cloaked. It's like having like umbrella insurance, right? It's just everywhere at all times in perpetuity, forever, right? And then with this, remember that you are allowed to revise your spirit contract at all times. It is a unilateral contract. It's not bilateral. Not everyone is coming up with terms here. It's just your terms, right? And you can revise it at any point in time. If you get to a point where you realize you had one clause that was open for them to work with you and you realize, you know what, actually, that makes me uncomfortable. I'm not really feeling that. You can actually add that in there. You know what, like, hey, actually, never mind. Don't do that. Right? Or as you become more developed when it comes to your abilities, you may want to add new stuff in there at a later date, and you are more than welcome to do that. Create a spirit contract. I will give you an example of my spirit contract, and some of you guys already know this already, but I've got new people coming in all the time, right? In my spirit contract is that I will work with all of you. I will be the teacher, the guide, the coach, whatever someone needs me to be, right? As long as, one, I don't see no ghosts. I know that I'm like a medium, but the shit needs to happen in the mind's eye, okay? I'm not trying to see you pop up in my living room. I'm really not. Someone's gonna have to take me to the hospital. I'm not there, okay? I'm not there, all right? And also, the other thing is that because I'm a spiritual teacher, specifically on the internet, there are a lot of eyes, right? And there's also a situation where there's a platform and I don't know who's watching me. And in order for me to complete my spirit mission, because I have over 1 million outstanding contracts right now, outstanding soul contracts, I cannot check that off if I'm not fiercely protected at all times. I need you to protect me at all times because I can't do my job without it. So many of you, due to being light bearers, are actually the same way. Either you are holding light, you are messengers, a lot of you are teachers, a lot of you are guides. Whether or not it's something that you have tapped into yet, a lot of you are those things. Is again, like energy, like attracts like energy. You wouldn't have ended up here if you weren't, right? Those are massive spiritual jobs. And that requires that you are also protected. I also have one other thing in my spirit contract, which is I need to be protected while I sleep, right? In the beginning, when I first made my spirit contract, this was years ago, It was hard to sleep at night. It's dark. Sometimes it's spooky. And for a lot of people, the senses wake up at night. You can hear, you can see, and it can be uncomfortable. And so, one thing that you may want to consider adding to your spirit contract is protect me in my sleep, right? That way you can just go to bed. You don't have to sit there and like be nervous prior to trying to fall asleep. You can just sleep soundly. The second thing I would say in terms of like a spiritual practice that you can do or a protection practice that you can do that not everyone sees, right, is a visualization technique of the bubble, as I call it, right? So whenever you were in a situation where you feel like you just want some protection, maybe you're doing a tarot reading, maybe you're walking down the street at night and you feel a little uneasy, right? Because remember, you're protecting yourself from energies that don't resonate. Not necessarily a bad energy, but just an energy that you just like, I don't really feel like fucking with it today, right? That's what you're protecting yourself from. Picture a bubble, like a protective bubble. So what you want to do is visualize a light coming down from the heavens. Maybe it's a white light, maybe it's a golden light. Depending on whatever color you associate with protection, it'll be different for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's usually like a white or a golden light. Picture that coming down from the heavens. So the heavens have opened up, this light is coming down, and it is cloaking itself around you, and it's forming a bubble, right? And this is your bubble of protection. And your bubble can be as big or small as you want it to be. You may be in some situations where you just want your bubble to be real tight around you so you feel snug, so you feel safe, so you can feel secure. But something that people don't think about a lot of times is that when you are doing a protection bubble, it's more than just visualization. You're also actually moving the energy around you, right? And the reason for that is because once you can see something, it now exists. There's a timeline where it exists. So once you can see through visualization, you can see the bubble, it means you have now just created it. It exists now, right? And you can put it around you, but you can also choose the size of it. So for example, let's say you're at home, you want to go to sleep, and you're like, I need a protection bubble because I don't know, I got, my hairs are standing up. I just feel a little bit uneasy. I'm feeling a little sensitive right now. So I want a protection bubble in order to go to sleep. You can blow out the bubble as if you're blowing a balloon. So you can visualize yourself blowing out the bubble to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you can have the bubble maybe fill up the room itself. So maybe you're in the bubble, but the bubble is big enough to also be protecting the room. Maybe you feel extra ambitious and you want to blow it up again so that the bubble fills up the whole house, right? So now the house itself is protected and anything and everyone in the house is actually protected too. Another really interesting thing that people don't realize that you can do is detach yourself from the bubble. So let's say you go, okay, I want to protect myself, but I'm at home. So I'm just going to kill two birds with one stone and I'm going to make a bubble for the house and all of us in it. And let's say maybe you have kids, right? And the kids leave the house. Maybe they go to school or whatever. You can detach yourself from the bubble. So when the kid leaves the house, the bubble kind of snaps to them. And you can do that through visualization. So now your kid is walking around with your bubble. You can put protection bubbles around things other than yourself. And all you have to do is the same way you would visualize the heavens opening up and surrounding you with a light bubble or a bubble of light. You would do the same for whatever it is that you're trying to protect. So if it's a loved one, you would visualize the heavens opening up and a light coming down and then surrounding that particular individual with the bubble itself. Or you can have the bubble be so damn big that it does both of you, right? Another visualization technique is if you are someone that works with spirit, right? There's ways you can do this too. If you are someone that works with like maybe archangels or angelic spirits or even maybe spirit guides or anything that you interpret to have a set of wings. In the visualization, you can picture the wings wrapping around you at like a hug or a shield, right? If you are working with ancestors and you have a good idea of what they look like, you can picture them flanking you. For example, I have a lot of warrior ancestors. They carry a lot of weapons, right? And so when I need protection, they all sort of flank me and they're all ready to go to war, honey. We're going to battle. The next thing that you could do, because this is now going to tie into this, and some of you guys are going to be like, oh, that's not fun, is meditation, right? meditation is a really good practice to get into in order to protect yourself. And the reason for that is because when people think about meditation, they're thinking about it from the perspective of, oh, I must have an absence of thought, right? I got to sit down, I got to clear my mind of all things. Whereas meditation is not really about the absence of thought, it's more so about the discipline of thoughts. Because thoughts are thought forms, they are flows of energy. And if you can learn how to discipline your thought form, you can then learn how to discipline the energy itself. Meditation is learning how to control and discipline your energy. The more you meditate, the easier it is for you to control and discipline the energy. And so then when you are trying to do these protection practices like visualization, right, and trying to create that bubble, it's easier and it's faster if you're already in the practice of disciplining your energy. And the easiest way to learn that is through meditation. And I would actually recommend that people that are new to it meditate from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And that's going to be difficult, right? Some of you are going to be like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have the attention span. I've got ADD. And like, I get it, right? Because sometimes it's tedious and sometimes it's boring and you're sitting there and things are itching, right? And you're like, oh God, I don't have time to do this. But the more you do that, you'll be able to fall into meditative states faster. For example, it takes me about 3 to 5 seconds to fall into a meditative state. It takes me about 10 to 15 seconds to fall into a meditative state if I am distracted, right? And on an absolute bad day, it takes about 30 to 60 seconds for me to be completely out. And if I am doing spiritual or energy work, I want to be able to get there faster, particularly if I'm trying to do things that are around protection. There is nothing worse than feeling like you need additional protection and you're trying to pull the bubble down. Can you imagine? Like, okay, where's this bubble? Okay, where's this bubble? Like, time is of the essence. Okay, we need to move faster. The fourth thing I would say is actually prayer. Now, this isn't going to work for everybody because not everyone prays and not everyone believes in the power of prayer. And just because you're spiritual doesn't necessarily mean that you pray. Prayer, a lot of times, is associated with like religion and the church, and people have trauma around that. People have trauma around feeling like God didn't show up for them, right? And so not everyone prays. But if you are someone that is a praying person, then pray. Pray for the protection because most likely you do that anyway. Everybody that does go to church, what do? On Sunday, they get right up on there. They start lighting candles if you're Catholic, right? And they start asking God for protection. That is what they're doing. So you can just pray. And what a lot of people don't actually realize is that prayer is really just asking spirit. So for those of you that don't believe in the power of prayer, then for you, I would just say ask spirit. If you are someone with a spirit guide or a spirit team, ask them to show up and they will show up for you. Hey, I would like to go to bed right now. Can you show up? My mother regularly shows up at night in order for me to sleep. And it's kind of aggressive, actually, now that I think about it, because I know my mother comes because she has a smell, and the room fills up with the smell. Okay, so I can tell you guys. So my mom was a heavy smoker, heavy smoker. We're talking a pack a day, right? Kind of smoker. And I don't smoke. No one around me smokes. I don't have friends that smoke. Nobody smokes. And but occasionally what'll happen is that the house will fill up with cigarette smoke. And that's how I know she's around. And then a lot of times I'm like, yes, mom. And then she starts talking. And so a lot of times it happens at night. She just comes and sometimes she's like, hey, good night. But she'll linger and she'll actually hang around for a bit. And I always notice this happens when I turn off the lights, everything, I'm ready to go to bed, I close my eyes, and then the room itself will fill up with cigarette smoke. And she'll hang out until I go to bed. She also has a tendency to come when I'm driving. right? So like protecting me in the car itself. Again, I don't smoke. I'm not around people that smoke. It's not like smoke would be stuck in the cushions or anything like that. I'll be driving and then the whole car will fill up with cigarette smoke, right? So that's how I know. But you can ask your people to protect you as well. And particularly in ancestors, your guides will always protect you. But I do find that ancestor energy is a lot more fierce because they are territorial of their own. And so if you are someone that works with ancestor energy, I would say ask your ancestors to protect you, especially if you have like warrior ancestors, Vikings in your ancestry, right? Those are some fierce motherfuckers, I gotta be honest. The last thing I would suggest that you can do is start working with amulets, right? Amulets is usually an item that either is said to hold protection powers or has been like charmed to hold protection powers. Charmed meaning like someone did magic on it to make it have that purpose. And wear that, right? Wear an amulet, and particularly an amulet that has like a protection symbol. So if you're like, oh, well, what is that? You can do a quick Google search and you can just say amulet symbols and it'll give you a list, and you can choose the symbol that you resonate with. And I would suggest trying to find like a piece of jewelry that has that symbol on it, right? And then always wear the amulet itself. A very popular amulet is like the Eye of Horus. That's popular. An Ankh is popular. The evil eye, that blue eye, is really popular. But depending on your culture, you may or may not resonate with that. But every culture has its own symbol for what it uses for protection. So just do a quick Google search and then find a symbol that works for you, and then try to find a piece of jewelry with that. If it is a symbol that is used regularly as an amulet, that piece of jewelry will actually be really easy to find, okay? I would suggest, if you can afford it, getting the jewelry that's like sterling silver, because one, sterling silver is really, really durable. You can get away with never taking it off and like bathing in it, swimming in it. You can get away with that. And also too, you can get away with having it as an earring or having it as a ring or a necklace that if you don't want people to see, you can tuck inside the shirt. And so you're always wearing a protection amulet, but not everyone has to actually be aware of that is what you're actually doing. You can just kind of do so freely, and it works really well for those of you that are in the broom closet. I always have mine. I have a ring that I wear all the time. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, you see? Look. And then it has onks on it too, on the side. I don't take this ring off. I've had this ring up for 7 years, and it has seen every sea and every ocean and every pool and every bathtub, and it never comes off, and it's going real, real well. By the way, you guys like my nails? I did zodiac nails, right? Look, I did my sun sign, Gemini, and then I did my moon and my rising signs on this one. Isn't that so cute? Anyway, I'm proud. Also, some amulet jewelry has stones on them. And so if you are attracted to one that has a stone, I would pick one that has a black stone. Black stones, crystals are really good for things like protection. I would suggest something like an obsidian or an onyx, right? And then you can wear that as well. And to other people, it's just a piece of jewelry, but for you, it's a protection amulet, and you don't actually have to take them off. The alternative to that, if you can't afford it, is buy the jewelry making items and then create it yourself, right? You can buy like a cord, like you can go to a fabric store or a hobby store, and you can buy like jewelry making stuff. These days you can get it off of Temu for like dirt cheap, and then you can buy the charm itself. So for example, let's say you want an evil eye charm, you can buy the charm itself, you can buy the little sort of cord necklace itself, and you can put them together and you can create your own amulet for under $5, right? And this way is actually really good way to go, because one, you'll feel a connection to it because you made it yourself. And so because you're making it to protect you, the intention is already in the actual thing itself, right? In order to be for actual protection. So that's something else that you can do. So that's my practical guide to protection. I really sincerely hope it was useful. And I also hope that that was what you originally meant in the beginning of this video, but I'm not quite sure. But if it's not, just leave a comment and then we'll try to get to it there. I'll try to correct myself. But for everybody else, I really do sincerely hope that that was helpful. And that gives you an alternative way of viewing protection. You don't always have to be chanting, walking in a circle around a star on the ground, although that can be fun. I've done that before, but make sure the star is upright. And, you know, as always, if you like what you see, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon.